Hello everyone and welcome to this session on Assessment 1. I'm just going to share my screen with you because I've got a PowerPoint here as we go through the different points. I'm sorry I had to cancel the online meeting for tonight, but circumstances beyond my control. So hopefully you'll get all the information that you need from this presentation. So we're going to look specifically at the first assessment task. First of all, some little housekeeping things about assessments. If you do find yourself in the position of not being able to get an assessment done on time, you've got the option of applying for an extension. Now, if it's a short extension between 1 and 7 days, I can grant that for you, but you'll need to check out the reasons for assessments and the format for applying for assessments in the subject outline. It's basically an email that you have to send me. Don't forget to tell me how long you need the assessment for, and please check out the reasons for applying for an extension. If you get sick and you go to the doctor, get a doctor's certificate and pop that in the email with as supporting evidence as well. If you're encountering another sort of issue and you need a longer period of time, then once again, check out the subject outline and you may need to apply for a special consideration. The only thing I ask you to do is to make sure that you apply for these as far ahead as you can. Of course, if you're sick, you're not going to know that you're going to get sick, but giving as much notice as possible is always a good way to go. So check the subject outline for that information. So assessment 1, and I know that many of you are well underway with this already, is 3 parts. The overall assessment is worth 40% and it's due on Monday the 27th of March. I'm going to go through each of those 3 parts and look at it a little bit more closely. So part A and B is a collaborative task, so you're working with a partner, and part C is an individual task that you complete by yourself, obviously. So we're going to look at part 2A. Part A. As I said, it's a collaborative task, and thanks for signing up with a partner, and I'm sure you've been in touch with your partners. It's worth 10 marks. And it's a 500-word limit for that. Now, the Web2 tools that we'll be using for this part of the assignment are all based on that study by Matt Bauer, where he has researched a lot of Web2 tools and categorised those that he thinks are suitable for use in educational settings with those different clusters there. So you need to look at 2 different tools that Matt Bauer has described. So one tool you'll do with one partner, the second tool with the second partner. So 2 different partners for each of those tools. Now the whole word limit for part A is only 500 words, so you can do the maths on that. So it's about 250 words for each tool. There are 3 things that you need to do for each tool. You need to give a description, you need to comment on the educational use, and then to give your overall recommendation. Now, please be aware, and I'm sure you've already encountered this, that the wiki on Interact2 has limited editing. Some people like to present their information in a table because that might give them a bit more flexibility with presenting the information, but it's entirely up to you. There was a question on the discussion about whether you can insert graphics. Yes, you can, but you have to save it on your computer first and insert it as a saved graphic. And I put a little, in one of the discussions, I put up the icon to look at for that. Once you've developed a wiki, you need to save it into either the Group 1 or Group 2 space on the wiki. So 2 different parts, part A Group 1 and part A Group 2. it's a good idea to add the name of the tool that you're doing. Here in the wiki where you signed up for partners, it just lets other people see what you've done. And because this is a collaborative resource that we're working on, if someone wants to use a particular tool, either in their classroom or when they're on placement, they can go and have a look at the wiki and then get some information to see whether it would be worthwhile using. So that's part A. Now, part B is also a collaborative task, and it's also worth 10 marks. And it's an approximate 500-word limit here. Because you're actually going to be doing this as a presentation, it's I'm not going to be counting exact words, but just an approximate. Now, you're going to work with the same partner that you had for the Group B tool. So just say you had Sue for Group 1 and you had Bob for for the second group of tools. It's Bob that you're going to be working with. And in this task, you need to come up with 5 criteria that you can use for analysing web resources. As you know, there's a plethora of resources out there. How do you judge whether it's going to be appropriate for your classroom? The tool that you use from here also needs to come from one of the ones mentioned in the Bauer article. So you have to present it online. So as a Prezi or a PowerPoint, not as a Word document. Be a bit creative with your presentation here. And then once you've developed your presentation, you need to add the access details into this wiki, the Assessment 1 Part B access details. Where possible, make it password free so that there's easy access to it. If there is password that you have to enter to be able to access it, pop it here in the access details on the wiki. Now, the 5 criteria need to be 5 that you come up with. You are required to look at academic literature and you are required to see what other people have come up with, but I don't expect to see someone who has developed 5 criteria and has published an academic paper. I don't expect to see those 5 criteria replicated as your own 5 criteria. So you need to come up for your own. You need to critically justify why you think this is a good thing. So when you're critically looking at something, you're looking at the positives and the negatives of it. So it's not always going to have an outstanding list of positives. Look at both sides of the argument. That's what critically means. Okay, so part C is the individual task. And this is worth 20 marks and there's a word limit of 800. Once again, you need to choose another tool from the Bauer article. You need to identify a specific learning outcome. What is it that you want your students to learn after using this particular resource that you've chosen? So just choose one learning outcome and try to be quite specific with it. Many of you won't have the opportunity to actually use the tool with students. That's fine, that's not a requirement. But I need you to put yourself in the place of a teacher, and I want you to use the criteria that you developed with your partner in Part B to evaluate the tool that you've chosen. See if it's going to be a good fit or not. You might come up with the conclusion that the criteria that you actually chose aren't the best and you want to change them. Well, that's okay, but you do need to go through the process of evaluating the resource that you've chosen with the criteria you developed in Part B. You then need to look at the pedagogical effectiveness of the tool that you've used, and once again, use academic literature. And then come up with a recommendation based on the evaluation against the criteria you developed and your reading. What's your recommendation of this resource? Is it actually a good resource to use, or has it got some things that you need to consider? but your overall recommendation. A couple of useful websites for you. Google Scholar, if you haven't already done that, link it to the CSU library, and that will take you directly to articles that are found in the CSU library. Sometimes if you do a Google Scholar search, when you try to access the article, it will ask you for payment. But if it's got the CSU link there as well, it will, from Google Scholar, you can go straight into the CSU library database and access it for free. So when you go into Google Scholar, go up to settings and look for library links and choose Charles Sturt University, and that should make life a little bit easier for you. Grammarly, if you haven't come across Grammarly, that's a great website. It actually proofreads for you. Proofreading is often an area of difficulty for students, and you can put Grammarly on your computer. It's free, and it will do a spelling and punctuation and grammar check for you as you write, not just with your essays, but anything in general if you set it up that way. The NESA site, New South Wales Education Standards Authority site, the Board of Studies is moving information onto this site. And if you're a bit stuck with learning outcomes, you don't know where to go, this is a great place to have a look. It's divided into stages, it's divided into subject areas, so you can go in there and have a look. There are syllabuses there where learning outcomes will be listed. So have a look at that if you're a little bit stuck. Okay, assessment 3, I just want to really briefly touch on, because many of you are doing a great job with this already. It's worth different amounts for the 2 different subjects. The ESC413, the blog responses are worth 15%, and in the master's subject it's worth 10%. I'm mentioning this to you now because if you want to do well with your blog contributions, the key is to add your posts on a regular basis. So you should be already doing that, and many of you are already active bloggers in that space, so that's great. So it helps you crystallise your thinking, and another requirement is for you to comment on other blog posts. So it's really hard when you're studying distance not to have that discussion with your peers, and this is one way of doing it. And as a bonus, it's part of the assessment as well. So I don't require you, of course, to comment on everybody's blog post, but there might be 1 or 2 that are of interest to you. So a blog post and a comment for every module would be the way to go. And the key to it, as I said, is to do it as you cover the module material. Don't leave it to the end, because people don't get the opportunity then to read and to comment on your blog posts. And you typically find that students that don't score very well are ones who have done it all at the last minute. Work on it gradually, and that's an easy way to get through this assessment task. Okay. Contact me if you've got any questions, go through the discussions, or email me. If there's something that's really you're really not clear about and you'd like to talk to me, please send me your phone number and a couple of times that it would be convenient to speak to you, and I will get back to you. I work from home mostly, so I don't have a CSU phone number for you to ring. Okay, good luck with your first assessment task, and I look forward to reading them soon. Okay, so bye for now.